This is the demonstration for skill sheet number 1, sewing a 5/8 of an inch wide seam allowance. The seam allowance is the distance between the sewing needle and the edge of your fabric. Now I'm going to show you how to do this on a sheet of paper. On your sewing machine, on this throat plate, there are some little lines. And I've taken a piece of tape and I've marked the line that you need to follow with that piece of tape. What we're going to do today is we're going to use the sewing machine to guide us to make a straight stitch that's exactly where we need to make it, 5/8 of an inch from the edge. Sewing patterns are made using the standard 5/8 inch width seam. If you change it, it changes the size of what you're making. So you want to sew it in the right place. If you take your sheet of paper and you line it up with the edge of that tape and you put your presser foot down to hold your paper, what you're going to do is as you sew forward, you're going to just guide the paper so that it stays straight and right next to that piece of tape. And I'm not going real fast because I want to have some control and I want to make sure that I'm guiding my paper exactly where I want it to go. I'm lining it up with that piece of tape so I get a nice straight seam, and it's the same all the way down, nice and even. Alright, so when I get to the end and I lift it up, I'm going to take a closer look and you can see that there are my stitches, my dots, and they're exactly 5/8 of an inch away because I lined them up as I did this all the way down on that sheet of paper. I'm sorry, I lined it up on the piece of tape. And that's what you want to do. So for this skill exercise, you need to create a 5/8 inch stitching line like this on all 4 sides of your piece of paper. You don't need to use thread for this. I just want you to practice using the sewing machine and using that guideline of the tape. The nice thing about this is if you are frustrated trying to trace stitching lines and you don't like using the tracing paper, you do this instead. You don't have to mark stitching lines if you can just use the guideline on the sewing machine to get your seams straight. So this is just another way of sewing. If you don't like the tracing paper, here's your solution. You can do it this way. Alright, so grab your skill sheet and go to your sewing machine and make 4 rows, all around the sides of the paper, and show me that you can make a nice even 5/8 inch wide seam.